Mark stood in the living room of the house he once loved. Sunlight came through the wide window and touched the empty walls. The house felt quiet in a new way. It was not sad. It was calm. For many years Mark lived here under the rules of the HOA. The rules were long. Some were clear. Many were not. Every month a letter arrived. Sometimes it talked about grass. Sometimes about paint. Sometimes about where a trash bin could stand. Mark followed the rules for a long time. He worked hard. He paid fees. He stayed polite. But the stress never left. Every step outside his door felt watched. Every small choice felt judged. Neighbors waved but also whispered. And one person always watched more than anyone else. Her name was Karen. Karen believed the street belonged to the HOA. She walked every morning with a notebook. She looked at lawns. She looked at driveways. She looked at windows. If something felt wrong to her, she wrote it down. Many neighbors tried to avoid her. Some smiled just to keep peace. Others stayed inside when they saw her coming. Mark never argued with her. He nodded. He listened. He moved on. But over time Mark grew tired. Not angry. Just tired. One evening he made a decision. He would leave the HOA. He would sell the house. He would start fresh. The process took months. Papers were signed. Keys were counted. The sale was final. On moving day the air felt lighter. A large truck waited by the curb. 2 workers carried boxes carefully. Each box held part of Mark's life. Old books. Family photos. Simple furniture. Mark watched with quiet focus. He felt no regret. Only relief. Across the street a curtain moved. Karen stood behind her window. Her eyes followed every step. She stepped outside slowly. Her shoes clicked against the pavement. She crossed the street with purpose. Karen stopped near the truck. She folded her arms. Her voice was sharp. She told Mark he was not allowed to move. She said the HOA had rules. She said approval was required. Mark stayed calm. He spoke slowly. He told her the house was sold. He told her he was no longer part of the HOA. Karen did not accept this. Her face tightened. Her voice grew louder. She accused Mark of breaking community order. She accused him of causing trouble. She said she would not allow it. The movers paused. They looked at Mark. Mark nodded for them to continue. This made Karen more upset. She stepped closer. She pointed at the boxes. She told the movers to stop. They looked confused. They did not. Karen reached into her pocket. She pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved fast. She told Mark she was calling the cops. She said he would regret this. She said she would teach him a lesson. Mark did not raise his voice. He did not argue. He simply waited. As Karen spoke into the phone, neighbors began to watch. Doors opened slightly. Faces appeared behind glass. Karen spoke loudly. She described Mark as a rule breaker. She claimed he was acting illegally. When she finished the call, she smiled. It was a confident smile. A proud smile. She stood back and waited. Her arms crossed again. Mark leaned against the truck. He took a slow breath. He felt steady. Minutes passed. The movers kept working. Boxes moved from house to truck. Karen paced back and forth. She muttered under her breath. She watched every movement. Soon the sound of sirens grew closer. Karen straightened her posture. She looked satisfied. Police cars arrived and parked nearby. 2 officers stepped out. Their faces calm and neutral. Karen rushed toward them. She began talking at once. Her words rushed together. She pointed at Mark. She described him as a problem. She demanded action. The officers listened. They asked questions. They walked toward Mark. Mark greeted them respectfully. He explained the sale. He explained the move. He showed his documents. The officers examined the papers. They nodded. They spoke quietly to each other. Karen interrupted. She raised her voice. She insisted the HOA rules mattered. One officer asked her to relax. She did not. Her voice echoed through the street. Neighbors watched silently. Mark felt the weight of the moment. But he did not fear it. He trusted the truth. Just then a car pulled up behind the police vehicles. The engine stopped. A door opened. A young man stepped out. He looked focused. His eyes went straight to Mark. It was his son Leo. Leo had just finished his shift. He came to help his father move. He did not expect a scene. He walked toward the group calmly. The officers noticed him. Karen turned. She looked annoyed by the interruption. Leo stood beside Mark. He asked quietly what was happening. Mark did not answer yet. The officers began to speak. The moment felt like the edge of something bigger. The air was tense. The street was silent. And the situation was about to change. Leo stood beside his father and looked around the street. He noticed the police cars, the watching neighbors, and the tight face of Karen. He understood quickly that this was not a normal moving day. The officers explained the situation slowly. They spoke about the call. They spoke about the HOA complaint. They spoke about the documents Mark had shown. Leo listened without interruption. His face stayed calm. His posture stayed relaxed. Karen crossed her arms again. She stared at Leo with sharp eyes. She asked who he was. Her tone carried suspicion. Mark answered softly and said Leo was his son. Karen laughed and shook her head. She said family stories did not matter. Leo spoke with respect. He said he came to help his father. He said he wanted to understand the issue. Karen stepped closer. She spoke louder than before. She accused Mark of disrespecting the community. She said allowing him to leave would weaken control. Neighbors whispered quietly. Some recognized Karen's behavior. Others felt uneasy. One officer asked Karen to lower her voice. She ignored the request. Her words spilled faster. She claimed the HOA still owned authority. She claimed Mark needed permission to breathe in the area. Her words sounded dramatic. Leo watched her closely. He did not smile. He did not argue. He asked the officers a simple question. He asked if the documents were valid. The officers confirmed they were. They said the house sale was legal. They said the HOA had no power now. Karen reacted with disbelief. She said papers could be fake. She said rules were above papers. She reached toward the documents. An officer stepped between her and Mark. Karen pulled her hand back. Her face turned red. Her voice shook with anger. She accused everyone of working against her. She accused the officers of being lazy. She accused Leo of pretending to matter. Leo stayed quiet. His silence made Karen more upset. She walked toward the moving truck. She told the movers to leave. She said the move was cancelled. The movers looked at the officers. The officers told them to continue. Karen stomped her foot. She shouted that she would report everyone. She claimed she had power. The street felt heavy. No one spoke. Leo finally spoke again. His voice was steady. He asked Karen to step back. Karen refused. She said no one could order her. One officer warned her gently. He told her she was causing a disturbance. He asked her to calm down. Karen laughed. She said she owned the street. She said no one could touch her. Mark watched quietly. He felt a mix of sadness and relief. Sadness for the tension. relief that his choice to leave was right. Leo looked at his father briefly. Mark nodded slightly. Leo then reached into his jacket. He did not rush. He did not show emotion. Karen noticed the movement. She smirked. She said fake tricks would not work. Leo pulled out his badge. He held it clearly. He did not wave it. He simply showed it. The officers noticed immediately. Their expressions changed. They recognized the badge. Karen leaned forward. She squinted. She laughed loudly. She said it was fake. She said anyone could buy one. Leo calmly stated his position. He stated his role. He stated his district. The officers confirmed his identity. Their tone shifted to respect. Karen froze for a moment. Her smile faded. Her eyes darted around. She took a step back. Then she stepped forward again. She said it did not matter. She said HOA rules were stronger. She said badges meant nothing to her. Leo spoke clearly. He warned her that her actions had consequences. He asked her one final time to stop. Karen pointed at Leo. She accused him of intimidation. She accused him of abuse. Neighbors watched with wide eyes. Some recorded quietly. Others simply stared. Karen stepped closer to the officers. She pushed one of them slightly while speaking. The movement was small, but it changed everything. The officer stepped back. Another officer moved forward. Leo raised his hand slightly. He spoke firmly. He stated she was interfering. Karen tried to pull away. She shouted again. Her voice cracked. The officers acted quickly. They restrained her safely. They explained her behavior clearly. Karen screamed in disbelief. She claimed she was innocent. She claimed betrayal. Mark stood still. He did not celebrate. He did not smile. Leo stayed composed. He ensured the situation remained controlled. Neighbors felt a strange calm. The power Karen once held vanished. Karen was informed of the situation. Her anger turned into fear. Her confidence disappeared. The street felt different. The silence was deep. The movers resumed their work. Boxes continued into the truck. Mark felt the weight lift from his chest. He knew this chapter was ending. Leo stood beside him, strong and steady. The day was far from over. But the truth was now visible. And the street would never feel the same again. The officers guided Karen toward the police car. She resisted with words but not with strength. Her voice shook as reality settled in. Neighbors watched in silence. Some felt relief. Some felt shock. Many felt both. Mark stood near the truck and breathed slowly. His hands were steady. His mind felt clear. Leo stayed close. He spoke with the officers calmly. He ensured everything stayed respectful. Karen kept speaking. She claimed she was misunderstood. She claimed she was protecting the neighborhood. No one argued with her. The officers focused on procedure. Their movements were careful and controlled. Karen was placed in the back seat. The door closed gently. Her voice faded. A deep quiet fell over the street. It was the kind of quiet that follows a storm. One officer returned to Mark. He apologized for the disruption. He confirmed Mark was free to continue. Mark thanked him with sincerity. He did not feel anger. He felt closure. Leo checked on the movers. They nodded and continued their work. Boxes moved again from home to truck. The house looked emptier with each box. But it also looked lighter. Neighbors began to step outside. Some approached Mark. They wished him luck. One older neighbor thanked him quietly. She said many people felt trapped. She said seeing this gave them courage. Mark listened. He nodded. He did not boast. Leo watched the street carefully. He noticed how people looked at him differently now. With respect. With curiosity. He did not enjoy attention. He only wanted peace for his father. The police cars remained for a while. Paperwork was handled. Details were recorded. Karen sat in the car staring forward. Her confidence was gone. Her power had vanished. She looked smaller now. Not because of size, but because of truth. Mark returned to the house one last time. He walked through each room slowly. Memories echoed softly. The kitchen where mornings began. The living room where evenings ended. The doorway that once felt like safety. Now it felt like history. Leo followed him inside. He helped lift the final items. They worked together without speaking much. Their silence was comfortable. It carried understanding. Outside the truck was nearly full. The sun had shifted position. Shadows stretched across the road. The movers closed the back doors. They secured the load. Mark handed them water. He thanked them for patience. One mover said it was the strangest job he ever had. Mark smiled lightly. Across the street Karen's house stood still. Curtains closed. No movement. The police car finally drove away. The sound faded into distance. A new quiet filled the area. This one felt peaceful. Leo leaned against the truck. He looked at his father. He asked if he was all right. Mark said he felt free. He said the weight was gone. Leo nodded. He understood. They sat on the curb for a moment. Just breathing. Just existing. Mark spoke about the early days. When the neighborhood felt welcoming. When rules felt reasonable. He spoke about how things changed. Slowly. Quietly. Leo listened carefully. He never interrupted. Mark said leaving was not failure. It was choosing peace. Leo agreed. He said peace was worth more than control. A neighbor walked over. A man named Tom. He lived 2 houses down. Tom thanked Mark. He said Karen scared many people. He said someone had to stand firm. Mark replied softly. He said he only stood for himself. Tom shook Leo's hand. He thanked him as well. Leo accepted with humility. He said he was just doing his duty. The street returned to normal movement. Cars passed. Birds chirped. The tension drained away. Mark took one last look at the house. He felt no regret. Only calm. He locked the door. He handed the key to the agent. That sound marked the end. Not with sadness, but with strength. Leo climbed into his car. Mark climbed into the truck cab. They were ready to leave. As the engine started, Mark looked back once more. He saw neighbors standing quietly. Some waved. Some nodded. The truck pulled forward slowly, rolling past the place that once held him. Mark did not look back again. The road ahead felt open, clear, free, and for the first time in years, the future felt like his own. The truck moved slowly through the streets. Mark watched the houses pass by. Each one looked similar, yet each held a different story. Leo followed behind in his car. He kept a safe distance. He wanted to make sure his father felt supported. The road opened wider as they left the old area. Traffic thinned. The air felt lighter. Mark rested his hands on his knees. He felt calm but thoughtful. Leaving was easy. Letting go took time. Memories returned quietly. Not painful. Just present. He remembered the first day he moved into that house. The paint smelled new. The street felt welcoming. Neighbors waved and smiled. Rules existed back then, but they felt fair. They felt helpful. Over time the tone changed. Letters became warnings. Meetings became tense. Faces became guarded. Karen was not always harsh. At first she smiled. At first she helped. Power changed her. Control became her voice. Fear became her tool. Mark understood this now. Understanding did not excuse behavior, but it explained it. The truck reached a long straight road. Fields stretched on both sides. The city noise faded. Leo pulled up beside the truck at a red light. He rolled down his window. He asked if Mark wanted to stop for food. Mark nodded. A simple meal sounded good. They stopped at a small place near the highway. Nothing fancy. Just warm food and quiet space. They sat across from each other. Sunlight filled the room. Leo asked how Mark felt. Mark said he felt lighter, but also tired. Leo understood. Big changes drained energy. They ate slowly. They talked about simple things. Weather, work, the new place. Mark shared plans. A smaller home. Fewer rules. More space to breathe. Leo smiled. He said it sounded right. After the meal they returned to the road. The sky shifted color. Afternoon leaned toward evening. Mark felt the road smooth beneath the tires. Each mile felt like release. Leo thought about the street they left behind. He knew Karen would face consequences. Not because of anger, but because of choices. He felt no joy in that. Only acceptance. The law was not about winning. It was about balance. As they drove, Leo remembered his childhood. Mark worked long hours. He stayed patient. He taught fairness through actions. Leo became who he was because of that. They reached the new town before sunset. The streets were quiet. Trees lined the roads. The air smelled fresh. The new house stood at the end of a short lane. Simple, clean, peaceful. The movers arrived shortly after. They opened the truck. They began unloading. Mark stepped onto the porch. He felt something new. A sense of beginning. Neighbors peeked from a distance. Curious but respectful. One woman waved gently. Mark waved back. Leo helped carry boxes. He placed them carefully. He wanted his father to feel settled. Inside the house echoed softly. Empty rooms waited. Mark walked through each space. He imagined mornings. He imagined evenings. He imagined calm. The movers finished their work. They left with smiles. Mark and Leo sat on the porch steps. The sun dipped low. The sky turned warm. Birds moved across the horizon. The day slowed. Mark thanked Leo. Not just for today, but for always. Leo replied quietly. He said family came first. They sat without speaking for a while. The silence felt good. Far away the old neighborhood continued its routine. Meetings, rules, control. Here there was none of that. Mark stood and stretched. He unlocked the front door again. He said it was time to begin. Inside they unpacked slowly. No rush. No pressure. Each item found a place. Each moment felt earned. That night Mark slept deeply. No worry followed him. No letter waited. Only quiet. And in that quiet, he knew he made the right choice. Morning light entered the new house gently. Mark woke up feeling rested. His body felt light. His mind felt clear. For the first time in years there was no pressure waiting for him. No letter. No warning. No rule list. He sat up slowly and listened. The house was quiet. Peaceful. Mark stepped outside. The air was fresh. Birds moved between trees. He smiled without thinking. Inside Leo was already awake. He was making simple breakfast. Nothing fancy. Just warm food. They ate together at the small table. Sunlight filled the room. Mark spoke about plans. He wanted a small garden. He wanted long walks. He wanted calm days. Leo listened. He supported every idea. After breakfast, Leo prepared to leave. Work waited. Duty called. Before leaving, he hugged his father. Not a long hug, but a strong one. Mark thanked him again. Leo said no thanks were needed. As Leo drove away, Mark stood on the porch. He watched until the car disappeared. Then he turned back inside, ready to begin his day. He unpacked slowly, each item placed with care, each box emptied with intention. Photos went on shelves. Books lined the walls. Furniture found purpose. By midday, the house felt alive. Not full, but alive. A neighbor stopped by. A man named Sam. He lived nearby. Sam welcomed Mark. He offered help if needed. Mark thanked him. He felt warmth in the words. They spoke briefly. No rules. No warnings. Just welcome. As days passed, Mark settled into a rhythm. Morning walks. Simple meals. Quiet evenings. No one watched. No one judged. Back in the old neighborhood, things changed. Without Karen, control weakened. People spoke more. They questioned more. Some felt relief. Some felt shame. Karen faced consequences for her actions. Not because of revenge, but because choices mattered. Mark did not follow the news closely. He did not need to. His life was now forward. Weeks later, Leo visited again. They sat in the garden. Small plants growing strong. Leo said his father looked different. Lighter. Happier. Mark agreed. Peace had changed him. They spoke about the past. Not with anger, but with clarity. Mark said power without kindness leads nowhere. Leo nodded. He carried that lesson with him. As time moved on, Mark became part of the new community. People greeted him. They respected space. He felt seen, not watched. One evening, Mark sat on the porch alone. The sky turned orange. Wind moved softly. He reflected on the journey, the fear, the pressure, the release. Leaving was not escape. It was strength. He understood that rules should guide, not control. Authority should protect, not dominate. And respect should always come first. Mark leaned back in his chair. He felt complete. Somewhere far away, Karen faced her own reflection. A lesson she could not avoid. Life continued. For everyone. But Mark knew one thing clearly. Peace is earned when courage meets truth. And his story ended not with conflict, but with freedom.